Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, we're going to talk about how to lose 100 pounds and look like a sexy freak. Before we get into that topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos just like this. All right. So I'm joined by Freakied0550. Your name always messes me up. I mean, I swear the last 3-4 years, I don't know how long I've known you, man, but every time I try to type your name into Instagram, I have a brain freeze. So before we dive in, for those that are trying to connect with you on Instagram and Facebook, can you tell us your name?
It is Freakied0550 would be how it's pronounced. You're among the many who say it wrong, and it's hilarious. And you can find me on YouTube and Instagram with that. Facebook, if you're on Facebook, I'm just Dennis Arnold. But yeah, it was definitely a username created long before I was thinking about making a YouTube channel. It was just a username, and that's all it was ever intended to be. So not the best searchable YouTube item for sure.
Yeah, well, I kind of did the same thing when I got into YouTube. I'm from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, so I just called myself the bearded beast of Duloc, like Fond du Lac, and
Right.
everybody's like, "What's that about?" No one knows what a Duloc is, and maybe I'll just change it a little bit. So, I want to talk about your weight loss, and before I jump into your story, there's a lot of people that are new to my channel, and I haven't really been talking about my story. So I'm going to show my story real quick, and then we're going to dive into yours, just so we can kind of show folks that we're kind of on the same sheet. I've been watching your body transformation, man. It's been like the story of the year. Like,
Oh, I appreciate it.
I'm just eating my popcorn, watching, going, oh, let's see where this goes, because it was going in a great place. For those of you guys like tuning in that don't know my story, I was 346, nearly died from type 2 diabetes. Literally nearly died from type 2 diabetes. And I just started eating animal-based and plant-based, basically no magical diet, no keto, no low, just animal and plant-based stuff, and lost 100 pounds. And I was really into powerlifting at the time. I was the picture on the left. I was headed into a meet where I was gunning for about a 1,900 pound total. Couldn't even hit my opener in squats. That was frustrating, and kind of got away from the fat ass lifestyle. So enough about me. This is you in January last year, and December of this year. You were 308 on the left, correct?
I was competing as a 308. I was, a give or take on a given day, somewhere between 295 and 305.
Gotcha. So, like, looking at your body on the left, I see my body, right? That's what I see. That's the body I used to look in the mirror at. So I understand like the challenges and how you feel, and on a daily basis. It's not always that great, right?
I'd say I felt pretty good for being that size, but having dropped the weight, I realized there was a whole lot better way to feel. So yeah, definitely there was much more challenges at that weight.
So my motivations were my motivations, but what were your motivations for losing?
Oh, so it's going to sound funny. Anybody who's familiar with my channel, I've been kicking around the thought of doing a big cut for probably the last 3 or 4 years. And I honestly, Steve, I had no intention of doing it last year. I competed last March as a 308. I was 294. And my intent was to compete again in July at 308. But I got the flu late in March, and I competed in January. Got the flu in March, and I lost 10 pounds in about 4 days. And I wasn't going to compete in July at that point, and I just honestly said, what the hell, let's go for it. Better now than never, why not? And put my foot on the gas and just kept going.
So I believe you were maybe 214 in that picture in December. What are you
216.
today?
216. As of right, and that was a low weigh in. That was I was averaging between 216 and 220 during that time. This morning I was 221, so I've been maintaining right around 220. Since I ended the cut, if you will, in December, and been hanging out around the same weight since.
So I want to hear your opinion on this and kind of what you went through on maybe social media and just people in general. Like when I was a big dude, and people just kind of looked at me as like a fat power lifter, right? The
Right.
stereotype, no muscle. They like kind of look at you like you're no muscle. You're just like 10 tons of fat. And like when I lost all that weight, I see the same thing with you. When I lost all that weight, all of a sudden, like, boom, this dude's a bodybuilder underneath that, right?
Right.
Right. So how was it for you back then? Did you kind of get the fat power lifter stuff, no muscle?
It's give and take some, and it's weird, because yeah, just being out and about, you just look like a normal American when you're 300 pounds. When you have clothes on, maybe you can see a little bit of traps here or there, but nobody knows until you actually lift the weights. If you show them lifting the weights, or they see you in the gym, people stop and gawk when you get 5, 6 plates on a given lift. But yeah, nobody outside of, honestly, the lifting community gives a shit when you're that big, and no matter how strong you are, to them, you can bench 400 pounds, you can bench 600 pounds. It's basically the same thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, having lost the weight, like the attention from, normal people, has been tenfold, and it's been kind of weird. And this is going to sound probably narcissistic, but it offends me to a degree, because the fat guy you see there was 1,000 times more obsessed about training and numbers and having to eat at a certain time and being very meticulous with the work. Whereas, the slimmer, more in shape guy, yes, my diet was much better, in terms of, eating less food and eating more nutrient dense foods. But the workouts were, whatever I felt like on a day. There was not really rhyme or reason to most any of them, other than, today I'm going to do cardio and lower body. Tomorrow I'm going to do cardio and upper body, and just wing it when I get there. So it's been weird in that sense, because I was much more obsessed when I was fat and I got less recognition. And now I'm just out there having fun, and, people are, oh my God, look at all the hard work. And I feel like I worked harder as that fat guy. Just my diet's changed.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of the same way, man. Like when I was doing daily maxes, not one rep maxes, but when I was peaking, like the last year of my training, it was like squatting every third day, benching every third day, and I would do a daily max, single, double, triple, whatever I wanted. And it was
Right.
super, super intense and super focused, and it
Yeah.
had to be, you
Yep.
know. Not, there were points for me. I've had, when you get 600 pounds on your back for the squat and you're doing it in your basement by yourself, you keep the phone handy because there's so many things that can go wrong.
Right.
But just that focus, it was like next level for me.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Same.
I connect with you because when I lost the weight, yeah, I was eating, I had to be focused on not going over a certain level of food intake,
Right.
but I was still training hard, but it was more maintaining. It was pretty easy, and I got to play around a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been fun. It's been an extremely fun year of training for me, because, almost the last 10 years, I've been very hyper focused on powerlifting and the big three lifts, and, optimizing my training around them. And I'd taken, 2 or 3 week breaks from that, of course, over the years, but never, almost an entire year of just going to the gym and very loose structure, and just having fun with training again has been, fantastic.
So let's backtrack a little bit. I call myself an accidental power lifter because I got into bodybuilding, like the bodybuilding lifestyle, right? In
Right.
'86. I didn't even know about powerlifting till 2007. And I was working in as a machinist in 2007. I ran into a guy who's like running a lathe, talking about these weird cryptic things like West Side and box squats and wide stance squats. Like never heard of any of these things before. So I got kind of pulled into that world, for like 6, 7 years. Were you an accidental power lifter, or were you like straight out of the gate?
I was an accidental power lifter. Growing up, I was always enamored with like the World's Strongest Man that would come on ESPN. I watched a lot of that anytime that would be on, and then of course, I grew up in the Arnold Stallone era when they were big movie stars. So seeing them, it was a lot of that was inspired. Anyway, uh, as a young adult, I could finally afford a little bit of this and a little bit of that, so I bought a bench and some weights. And me and my roommate, we didn't know powerlifting or anything like that. We just people would say, "How much do you bench press in regards to lifting weights?" So we would bench press 5 days a week. That's the only weight training we did. We played basketball, and that was good enough for our legs, we felt, and so we just bench pressed all the time. And then a couple years after that, I uploaded a bench press video to YouTube. I think it was me benching 405 by 3 in a spare office here at work when it was empty, and somebody saw it and was like, "Hey man, that's a strong bench. You should try powerlifting." And this was 2012 or early 2013. And so then I looked up powerlifting. That was the first I had heard of it.
Right.
And that's what got me into it. My first meet, I did a push pull because at that point I still benched more than I squatted, and I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I just did a push pull instead.
Yeah, so I think I got into powerlifting about or somewhere around the same time. So that's interesting to know. Like where you're at right now, what I guess the question is, you might not have the answer to this, but like you get down to that level, and all of a sudden the way people talk to you is different. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, like on the internet, like all of a sudden I woke up and I had like vascularity in my arms, and like where did this come from? you know
Right.
and then like what's next? What's next for you? Are you going to try to stay down at this weight?
So, tentatively speaking, I would like to make a run at benching 500 pounds as a drug tested 242. And I think that's twofold for me. I love having like a hard goal set, something to work for. Don't get me wrong, like the looks that have come along with losing weight, it's awesome, but that's never really something I've trained for, nor is that something that excites me or motivates me to train looking a certain way. I prefer going after performance, and the looks will follow that. So that gives me room to do a bulk, but having it capped at a weight where I'm not going to be, that fat guy again. And I've benched 500 pounds drug tested at every weight class above 242. So I think that would be fun. And I intend on, doing the bulk slowly. Like I don't think it'll be done by the end of this year, maybe into next year. I'm going to do a meet, it looks like in April as a 242, but I'm not going to just YOLO bulk up to 242 by then. I'm just going to maintain the slow course, and wherever my weight is at that point, it is. And I'm just going to kind of use that meet as a tune up, kind of see where I'm at, experiment with some training philosophies going into it, and give myself a baseline to shoot for.
I think that I think that's a good approach. One of my biggest mistakes, like people ask me, like if you had to go back in time, what would you do differently? I'd gain weight really slowly. If I was doing powerlifting, like I got down to 238, and then I competed. I gained about 20 pounds and competed, and it was a slow 20 pounds, like a year and a half, and it turned out really, really well for me. So, where's your bench at right now? I imagine it's going to turn out really well for you as well.
Yeah, I was 226, 227. I benched 455. That was my first double body weight bench press. That was a couple months ago. Right now, it's on a given day 425 to 445 probably, and I'm right around 220. So to be able to eat my way up some, get those calories back, and train hard alongside with it, I'll give myself as good a shot as any to make a run at that.
Yeah, man, throw in a little turkesterone, you're good to go. So yeah,
Oh,
all natty, baby.
that's right.
So one thing I want to talk about is like the end physique. So there's so much over analyzation and over things are just overchurned to the point where they're just like don't chase strength all the conversations about chasing strength
Yeah.
and progressive overload and how you train. Like I get a million questions a month about, hey, I want to do a strength cycle and then I want to do a muscle cycle. And like, dude, it's all the same thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's all the same thing for 90% of folks until they kind of reach, your level. So I
Right.
want you to speak on that a little bit. You have the body that nearly every man, you know, would want the muscularity and a reasonable, approaching a degree of, super leanness. Just speak on the whole, if you don't mind, the whole strength and muscle thing and the over, analysis of training.
So again, I've mentioned numerous times on my channel, you've said much of the same. 90% of it is just consistent hard work over time. The 10% of it that we all talk about is just that, it's the 10%, it's the minor details. If you want to get stronger, you need to build bigger muscles. If you want bigger muscles, you're going to get stronger. The free program I put together, I reached out on purpose. I picked everybody who I picked was very intentional. Um, you know, basement bodybuilding, natural hypertrophy, stand strength, um, Alec on Kiri, Bald Omni Man, just a wide variety of people who train for a wide variety of reasons. And so much of what everybody sent me was the same stuff, the same rep ranges, everybody talking about these wildly different goals, and I'm asking for certain movements or accessory movements here. What are your preferred rep ranges? And 80% of it was overlap. All the same. I mean, it's fun conversations to have. And when you do get to an advanced level, the niche stuff starts making more of a difference. And when you're looking at us talking on social media, you are looking at advanced lifters discussing these niche things. Um, but until you get to that point, like, do what you want and have fun and work hard, and you're going to get there. When you're there, then okay, I'm going to hyper focus, on this, that, or the other. And these little 1% differences at that point, will start adding up.
Yeah, like me doing my big dumbbell rows. I just like doing them, right? It's just something I enjoy.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason. I just like them. And hey, maybe Jeffrey Verity Schofield likes chest supported rows, and somebody will say, which one should I do? Should I do yours? Should I do his? I mean, it doesn't really matter. That's the 10% you're talking about.
Right. And
And
people gloss over the have fun thing. The have fun thing is do it. That's going to make you come back. That's going to make you want to train for 10 years, for 20 years, and be in it long enough to see the fruits of your labor. So I think more people should lean on what's fun to them, and throw in some things that suck here and there because it's going to make you better. But man, have fun. It's supposed to be fun.
yeah, I mean, that's it, man. It's supposed to be fun, and you can't fake passion. I mean, it's not sitting on some, throne of the gods saying, I have passion. And, if you're passionate, you're going to see the journey through. I don't know what other way to, put it.
Right.
And you can't fake passion. I mean, you can't fake passion for improving over your last workout, you know.
Right.
It's just something you either want or you don't want, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to speak about the whole body transformation thing because, I've coached on and off a little bit, but it was right about when right before the pandemic started where I started coaching just full time. And one thing I've learned, like I've lost, at my peak, I lost 108 pounds. You're like over 80, whatever it is. One thing I've learned is that those types of transformation stories are nearly impossible. They just are extremely difficult. It's hard to pull off a huge body transformation the odds are extremely low. Now, a couple of points. One of the toughest things I find is to get people to set aside bad habits, right? And if they don't lift right now, if somebody comes to me and wants to lose 100 pounds and they don't lift or exercise at all, they're not passionate, like the chances are zero,
Right.
absolutely zero. And the reason is, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, like you had structure, you had some appreciation for nutrition. It's not like you just ate ding dongs, right?
Right. Right.
You had a nutritional structure, and when you made the switch, it was a little bit more refinement than it was a lifestyle change.
Right.
What was your eating like before, and what were the small changes you made?
So, the fat powerlifter version of me, I still ate a lot of nutritious, clean foods. Beef, chicken, fish, both leans and fatty cuts. Lots of fruits and vegetables. But I also didn't say no to dessert. I love pumpkin spice lattes. I love mochas, iced coffees. M&M's has been a popular pre-workout of mine before. So it was, I would say my diet was probably 60 to 70% clean, and then 30 to 40% just trash on top. So transitioning from that to, losing weight started with eliminating the trash, of course. And at first I did not actively seek out to restrict calories per se. I just said I'm not going to eat M&Ms. I'm not going to get an iced coffee, or maybe I'm going to get a sugar-free iced coffee today. And gradually, that worked its way down to strictly clean eating, if you will, where I was only eating, eggs, lean meats, fruits, vegetables, potatoes, some rice. The rice eventually went away because I preferred potatoes or fruits for my carb sources because there's some more nutrition. More micronutrient foods help with performance, help feeling full. Um, and then something I've always leaned on a lot is intermittent fasting, and in conjunction with meal timing. So timing my eating around training. And basically I would, most days during the week, I'd do like a 18 to 20 hour fasting window. I didn't strictly adhere to it's going to be this window or not. If life happened, it happened, but I would eat 2 meals in the day. Again, very clean, lean meats or eggs, fruits and veggies or potatoes, and that's it. Yogurt. I found Chobani makes a sugar-free Greek yogurt, and the 2 pound tub for the whole tub is only 350 calories. So finding high volume foods with low calories and high micronutrients, and restricting my eating have been the biggest keys, I would say.
Do you have any idea what your top level calories were during this last year? Like,
Oh,
I'm
when
big on high weeks.
like when I was big or when I was
Just
dieting.
the past year when you're dieting, where like your average calorie intake?
So I didn't track calories. I've you know meticulously tracked them in the past, so I have a good idea of what an actual serving size looks like. If anybody has never measured out what a real serving of peanut butter is, do that one time and your whole perspective will be changed. You're definitely eating more than one serving when you're making a peanut butter and jelly. Uh, but I didn't track calories. But what I would do Saturdays and Sundays were my biggest training days. And I'm talking about I'd put in like 4 hour sessions, an hour of lists, cardio, then doing my barbell movements, which would be 2 to 3 movements. Then I would go do, 20 minutes of CrossFit, HIIT type stuff. And then I would do another 30 minutes of lists. So those days, give or take, I was probably eating 3,000 ish calories on the weekends. And then during the weekdays, normal days, probably some days would be as low as 12 to 1,500 calories. Some days would be around 2,000, 2,500 calories, but probably averaged around 2,000 calories on a given day.
So I'm seeing a lot of really big similarities, between the way we approach things, and you can kind of correct me if I'm seeing anything differently. But one thing I preach is trying to live more like a monk during the week. If you drink alcohol, chill during the week. Try to have it super strict during the week. Just have a routine, and on the weekends, um, I wouldn't call it looser. I would call it, the schedule on the weekend for many people is a little bit more chaotic. So, I always tend to build in a little bit more calorie room on the weekends. In your case, it was for training. Uh,
Right.
Intermittent fasting is like, I hate to use the word because back in the
Me
day,
too. Me too. Me too.
man, before it was a thing, I was talking with Ori Hofmeckler, the warrior diet. And he was kind of like intermittent fasting before intermittent fasting was intermittent fasting. And I started introducing like coffee and whey during the day just to get in some extra protein. And man, I was a witch hunt. People came to kill me, because I broke I broke the rules, right? But
Right.
that's why I don't like to use the term. But eating less
And
eating less during the day.
yeah, and my fasts were similar. Like I'd have, a sugar-free energy drink or a coffee here and there. Um, and it's calorie restriction. There's a lot of proclaimed magic out there that gets lumped in with intermittent fasting that I don't really get into all that. For me, it's just the easiest way to restrict calories. Um, I look at it as, maybe it is more hyper optimal to eat 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day, but then I'm going to be hungry all day. Whereas if I take those 5 or 6 meals and put them in 1 or 2 meals, I'm still going to be hungry throughout the day. But there's going to be one portion of the day where I'm going to feel completely satiated and happy about what I've just ate. And that's going to make me, my adherence only happens that way. I would rather suffer throughout the day and have that, 1 or 2 big nice meals than eat the small meals throughout the day that's maybe more optimal, but I still feel like I'm suffering the whole time and I never get that big bang that I want.
Yeah, it's the average person just simply eats too much during the day. They
Yeah.
simply do. And intermittent fasting isn't a miracle, but if you combine it with a focus on lean protein sources and a lot of plant based foods, it's hard to gain weight. You know,
Right.
and um, if I could stress one thing, to anybody watching that wants to make a body transformation is eat a lot less during the day. You're going to be hungry at some point during the day. Pick your time. I found, and I'm curious what you think, is when I don't eat during the day, I'm actually more productive, more focused. I'm not thinking about food all the time. I find my energy and awareness are better, as opposed to the old days when I would eat during the day a lot more. I just felt like I was constantly thinking about food.
I've found similar, and I'll get the hunger pangs, usually around 10 a.m. or so, and I've learned to embrace that. And I just and this is going to be a little, woo woo bro stuff, but I feel like chasing that hunger, and embracing it and knowing it feels like I'm working. Like I feel like, oh, I'm hungry and I'm going to be hungry for the next 4 hours. That definitely means I'm losing weight because my body wants food and I'm not giving it to it. And just, justifying that logic in my head. And, here I am.
Yeah, it's kind of like actively engaging in the challenge. It's kind of the
Right.
same thing in the gym. When it's there, yeah, it's not always easy, but you kind of have to make this mind shift change where you're either going to take the lion head on or the lion's going to eat you, and you know, choose how you're going to approach the day, right?
Absolutely.
So, I really can't stress enough, and I won't keep you on forever, but I watch your food choices on the internet, and they're always rich in nutrients, right? They're always nutrient rich. Can you speak to that just briefly? How important is food volume, and what exactly is food volume for someone that doesn't understand it?
So food volume, especially in the context of losing weight, is you want to maximize the amount of food that you can get on your plate for the least amount of calories. And if you're a fat boy like me, uh, eating the most food possible for the least amount of calories is fantastic. And me and you have talked about something like watermelon. 7 pounds of watermelon is 1,000 calories, and if you want to scale that down to 3.5 pounds, is 500 calories. You could eat 3.5 pounds of watermelon, and this is the flesh, and the flesh itself is very light. So 3 pounds is a lot of watermelon. That's basically the same calories as a king size Snickers, and king size Snickers that big.
Right.
What's going to keep you satiated? Not only the volume, but the amount of micronutrients that's in something like watermelon. Helps tremendously with your body being nourished. Your body's not going to want to tell you to eat more because it's getting satisfaction out of what's there, whereas the Snickers is sugar and fat, and your body's like, oh, sugar, fat, dopamine rush, give me more, give me more. And I'd eat 2 or 3 of those instead of just one. So yeah, that and the lean proteins, like you mentioned, you're getting the protein, you're getting micronutrients, you're getting a lot of food. You can fill up 2 or 3 plates with some of these, like a cucumber salad, for example. Great micronutrients in it. One cucumber is like 30 calories. You can basically, the stuff self-limiting stuff like watermelon, cucumbers, greens, things like that. You're almost not going, if you sat there and gorged yourself, you're not going to eat enough to gain weight, just because your body won't let you eat anymore. And focusing on things like that makes the weight loss process a whole lot easier.
There's also a factor. I hate to call it tedious, because I think, like, here's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can eat a whole bag of Doritos and it doesn't really get tedious. You're picking the crumbs at the end and you're like,
Yeah.
the crumbs. Like, I want more. Like, you get to the end of the bag and you're like, shit. Right. But like, you try to eat 10, 11 potatoes and it gets tedious. So
Right. Yeah.
it's not that eating healthy is tedious. It's that the opposite, the ultra processed food, is designed to make you want more,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. It's so hyper palatable, and like you get that dopamine hit, and yeah, I'm with you. A bag of Doritos or something. At the end of the bag of Doritos, you're sitting there trying to turn the bag up and get every last bit out. Whereas something like you said, the potatoes. Yeah, halfway through it, you're like, oh man, I don't really know if I'm gonna finish all of these or not.
And one of the weird foods. I mean, you mentioned watermelon. It was funny when you mentioned that, because when I made the switch, man, I was eating a half a watermelon a night. Like, I used to eat a whole tub of ice cream, and I moved to eating a half a watermelon a night. And it was funny when you mentioned that, because it's not something I woke up and said, I'm going to eat food volume. Right. I just was trying to find ways to feel full. And
Right.
egg whites. I won't lie, man. For 37, 36 years, I thought they were the most disgusting thing on the planet. But now, I'm trying to slim down a little bit more this year, and I'll mix like 3 or 4 eggs with a whole container of egg whites, and it's hard to finish.
Yep. That's my number one post workout meal on the weekends is I'll cook 4 eggs, runny eggs, and then a half a carton of egg whites, and then in some cream of rice, and some salt and pepper, and it's sometimes when you get to the end of that bowl, you're not really looking to lick every little bit off of it because you are so full and satiated.
So one more thing, and then I'll let you off. When we talk about lean proteins, the value of lean proteins, we're not anti-fat. So that's a step.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
What we're trying to do is reduce higher calorie foods so we can eat more. So I still eat eggs. I reduce the number of eggs. I eat more egg whites. I don't
Same.
eat as much beef. I eat the leaner cuts of meats. Um, what's talk about that a little bit. What type of lean proteins do you focus on the most?
So eggs, egg whites, and again, same thing. Reduce the eggs and pour some egg whites in there. I like chicken thighs. They are fattier than chicken breast, but they're still not really high in fat at all. And the calories, thighs versus breast, is virtually identical. There's just a little more fat and a little more, or a little less protein. But they keep better. They're easier to reheat. And then I made a video showing on my channel when you take fattier ground beef, a lot of times Kroger will have it on sale, but it'll be the 73.27, but you can get it for $3 a pound and I'll buy it in bulk. You can drain and rinse it. Now, you're not going to get an exact measure of how much fat you're draining off and rinsing off, but you can taste the difference. You're getting rid of tons of fat calories out of it.
Right.
And that's probably been my biggest one is ground beef, just because it's cheap and it tastes good and it tastes good reheated and it mixes well with so many other things. And then what I have done as far as fats, so I do a 24-hour fast every Thursday, starting Thursday evening to Friday evening, and then Friday evening after that 24-hour fast, if I wanted to eat something, ice cream, or I'll always get it like a big sirloin steak, like a 20 ounce or a ribeye or something, and then pair that up with, or if I want to put butter in my potatoes or things like that, I typically, that's where my nasty meal would come from. And even then, 9 times out of 10, it wasn't ice cream. It was just a ribeye and potatoes with some butter or something like that in it.
Right. And that doesn't impact your training.
No, no, and honestly, it's that's the meal before my first big training day. So if anything, it was fueling my training, getting those big calories in before.
Yeah. So one of the things about fasting and like people talk about the anabolic window and meal timing, it is important, but it isn't important in the sense that you need to have, the food choices structured around your meals so you don't go in flat and, so on and so forth. So it has to make sense. There has to be some common sense.
Again, that's one of those little, micro 0.5 to 1% things that most people, that's not what you want to worry about when you're getting started. That's something you're going to worry about, 5 to 10 years down the road when you're trying to optimize and eke out those last, 5 to 10% of gains that you got left.
All right, man, I'm not going to keep you on. It's Sunday, and I'm going to try to get this video out today and let you get on with your day. I sincerely appreciate your time. And before we go, let folks know again where they can find you on social media.
Well, Steve, I appreciate you having me. Congratulations on your 100,000 subscribers. That's huge. I am Freakied0550. That's with an IE. On YouTube, same thing on Instagram, and if you want to look me up on Facebook, if you have some weird troll profile, I'm not going to accept your friend request on Facebook. But if you're a legit person, it's Dennis Arnold on Facebook.
All right, man. Have a great Sunday, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Steve.